I was mopping the canvas when Greta found me. 4 hours before the gala. The hotel ballroom had been converted for the night, folding ring posts bolted to the hardwood, 3 rows of round tables draped in white linen, corporate sponsor banners hung every 12 feet along the walls. The chandelier threw gold light across everything. It was a beautiful room pretending to be a gym, and I was the only person in it who knew the difference. Greta Mays was the event coordinator. She was 32 and had the particular energy of someone who had been solving problems since 6 in the morning. She walked up to me with her tablet pressed to her chest like a shield and said, "Mr. Holt, I need to ask you something and I need you not to laugh." I leaned the mop against the ring post and waited. Our last bout lost its fighter. Pulled hamstring. 47 minutes ago. She looked at the tablet, then back at me. "I know you run the corner for the Tuesday fighters. I know you've been around this club for a long time. Do you know anyone at all, who could fight tonight? Preferably someone who wouldn't embarrass themselves in front of 400 people." She had the grace to look apologetic about the question. I looked at the ring for a moment. The canvas was clean now. I'd been mopping it since noon. "I'll do it," I said. She blinked. "You." "Me." She started to say something careful, and I heard Reed Kavanaugh laugh before I saw him. He was at the sponsor table behind her, VP of something at the company that had bought naming rights to this whole event, thick-necked, tuxedo already on at 4 in the afternoon. He'd been supervising the placement of his company's logo banners with the attention of a man who considered this the important work. "The janitor," he said, still smiling, half to the men beside him. "That's perfect. That's actually perfect." Greta looked mortified. I looked at Kavanaugh the way you look at weather, you note it, and then you get on with what you're doing. "Get me the form," I said to Greta. She pulled it up on her tablet. I signed it with my finger. She stared at my name for a second, then looked up at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Mr. Holt," she said quietly. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure," I said. "Who's my opponent?" "His name was Marcus Teller." She showed me his card, 34, former NCAA Division II wrestler, trained privately for the last 3 years, 8-0 on the charity circuit. His last 3 opponents had gone down in the second round. He was not a bad man and not a dirty fighter. He was just good, and he knew it, and the room knew it, and that was what made him the closer, the marquee bout at the end of the night, the one people paid to see. Now he'd be closing the night against the men who mopped the ring. I called B from the service corridor. She was 16 and she had her mother's voice, direct, no softening, straight to the point. "What?" she said, instead of hello, which was how she answered when she knew it was me. "Put on the blue dress," I said. "The good one." A pause. "Why?" "I'm in the last bout tonight." Another pause, longer. "Dad." "Table 3. They'll have a seat for you." "Dad," she said again, and this time it had a different weight in it, not worry, exactly. More like she was recalibrating something. Then, okay. I wrapped my own hands in the equipment room. There was a kid named Alonzo who usually did my corners at the Tuesday sessions, and he found me there, eyes wide, holding a roll of gauze like it might explain what he was hearing. "I got it," I told him. "Mr. Danny," he said. "I got it, Alonzo." He sat down on the equipment trunk and watched me wrap. He'd seen my hands before, but not in this context, and there's a difference between knowing something intellectually and seeing it arranged in front of you. I wrapped fast and clean, the way you do when it's in your hand so deep it's not a skill anymore, it's just motion. He watched and didn't say another word. The gala filled up by 7. I stood behind the curtain at the service entrance and listened to the room. 400 people in tuxedos and evening gowns, eating chicken, drinking wine, watching 2 junior bouts that went the distance and stayed polite. The crowd applauded each one the way you applaud at a school play, warmly, without investment. I could hear Kavanaugh's laugh above the others between rounds. A specific laugh, the kind that fills more space than it needs to. I thought about Linda. I thought about the last time I'd been behind a curtain like this, which was a Tuesday night in November of 1996, and I'd been 23 years old, and everything about the world had felt like it was opening rather than closing. I thought about how that version of me would have found tonight funny. Not cruel funny, Just the kind of funny that life hands you sometimes, the kind that doesn't mean anything until later. Then I heard the announcer call my name, and I walked out. The reaction was what I expected. Not hostility, this was a charity crowd, not a fight crowd, and they were full of good wine and good intentions. It was more like a collective settling back. An adjustment. The announcer said my name and my age, 52, and I heard the murmur move through the tables like a slow tide. I caught a woman leaning to her husband and could read the shape of what she was saying, the janitor. I climbed through the ropes. Marcus Teller was already in the opposite corner. He was a big man, well-built, and he looked at me the way a confident person looks at something unexpected, not dismissively, but with the particular attention of someone who is revising a plan mid-execution. He gave me a small nod. I gave him one back. I respected that about him already. Then the bell rang, and the night changed. The thing about being good at something for 30 years, even if you've been quiet about it for 25 of them, is that the body doesn't forget. Muscle memory isn't memory at all. It's closer to structure. It's baked into the architecture of how you move. And when the first combination came at me, a jab cross, textbook, well-timed, I slipped it the way I had been slipping combinations since I was 17 years old, weight shifted, head offline, and I put a short left hook to his ribs that made him exhale hard and take 2 steps back. The room went quiet. Not silent. Not yet. But the ambient noise dropped, the way it does when something interrupts an expectation so cleanly that it takes a moment to process. I heard a fork set down somewhere in the middle tables. I heard Kavanaugh stop talking. I didn't press. I don't chase. I never have. I moved back to center ring and reset, and the rest of round 1 looked like that, Marcus working, setting combinations, and me finding the angles he didn't know he was leaving. I kept my right hand high. I threw only what I was sure of. By the time the bell rang to end round 1, I had not been touched cleanly once. I went to my corner and Alonzo was there with water and a towel, hands moving fast, not saying much, which is exactly what I needed. I looked out at the room. I found B at table 3. The paperback was on the table. She was watching me with her arms folded across her chest and an expression that I recognized. It was her mother's expression, the one that meant, I see you. Round 2 was different. Marcus Teller was not a man who made the same mistake twice. He tightened his guard, shortened his combinations, stopped leading with the jab as an opener and started using it as a probe. He was smart, and it showed. He landed 3 good shots, 1 to the body, 2 to the guard, and they were heavy. The crowd felt them and sat up straighter. But here is the thing about a man who spent 6 years as a professional amateur, he knows how to make heavy shots cost something. Every time Marcus landed, I made him pay for the position it put him in. Not dramatically. Not with the kind of exchanges that crowds gasp at. Clean, accountable boxing. A jab to reset. A right hand to the body when he dipped. An overhand left that caught him stepping in, and he felt that one, I know he did, because he rolled his neck afterward and looked at me differently. By the end of round 2, the room was forward in their seats. I heard it happen. The cutlery had gone completely silent. Someone had turned the ambient music off, though I don't think they'd done it consciously. The tables were leaning in, 400 people all tilted at the same angle, and I thought, there it is. That's the thing you can't fake and you can't manufacture. You can only earn it, one exchange at a time. B had her hands on the table, palms flat. I could see them from the ring. Round 3. I was 52 years old and I had been on my feet since 9 in the morning and my left shoulder was talking to me, not screaming, just talking, the way an old friend tells you to be careful when you're about to do something that costs you. I listened to it and I adjusted my guard and I kept moving. Marcus Teller came out for the 3rd round with something new in him. Not desperation. More like the specific energy of a man who has decided to leave nothing in the tank, which is the truest form of respect one fighter can pay another. He threw more than he'd thrown all night, and some of it landed, and the crowd made sounds that crowds make, and I weathered it the way you weather something you've walked through before, with your feet set and your chin down and your eyes open. And then, with 40 seconds left in the round, I found the shot. He came in heavy with a right hand, leaning into it, and I rolled under it and came up with the left hook to the jaw, not hard enough to drop him, but undeniable. His legs shuffled. His guard dipped. I didn't follow up the way I could have, because I didn't need to and because there was no point in it. Instead I stepped back and reset, and Marcus Teller looked at me across the canvas with something in his face that wasn't quite a smile but was close to it. The bell rang. The judges conferred for about 45 seconds. In that 45 seconds, the room held itself very still, the particular stillness of 400 people who came expecting one thing and got something they were still making sense of. I stood in the ring with Alonzo at my elbow and I looked at the tablecloths and the sponsor banners and the chandelier throwing its gold light across everything, and I thought about Linda, and I thought about B, and I thought about a Tuesday night in November of 1996, and I let myself feel for one quiet moment how strange and full a life can be. The announcer took the microphone. On a unanimous decision of all three judges, winner, Danny Holt. And then, before the applause could shape itself into anything ordinary, a man stood up from the judges' table. His name was Phil Graves. He'd promoted the Golden Glove circuit in the city from 1988 to 2001, and he'd seen a lot of fighters come through, and he'd apparently been sitting at the judges' table all night watching me with an expression that Alonzo later described as a man trying to remember where he'd buried something. Phil Graves took the microphone and he said, "Folks, I want to tell you who you just watched. Three-time regional Golden Gloves champion, 1994, 1995, 1996. 31 wins, 4 losses, professional record. Walked away from this sport at 27 years old to raise his daughter. Danny Holt." The room came to its feet. Not all at once. It rippled, the front tables first, then back, like something tipping over. And I noticed, in the particular way you notice things when you're very calm and very tired, that Reed Kavanaugh was standing. First on his feet at his table. He was clapping with his hands above his head and his face had the look of a man who has just been shown something he didn't know the world contained. I didn't linger on it. It wasn't mine to linger on. Marcus Teller crossed the ring and took my hand in both of his, and he said something I won't repeat because it was said between fighters and belongs there. I thanked him for a clean fight and I meant it. Then I found B. She was at the ropes. She'd left her table and come to the ring apron, the blue dress catching the gold light, and she had her arms folded the way her mother used to fold them when she was trying not to cry in front of anyone. I sat on the apron and dropped down to her level. She unfolded her arms and hugged me, quick and hard, the way she has since she was small. "You could have told me," she said into my shoulder. "You didn't ask," I said. She pulled back and looked at me. She had her mother's eyes and her mother's way of seeing straight through the thing you've just said to the thing you actually mean. Then she shook her head, very slightly, which is what she does instead of smiling when she's trying to keep it together. "Come on," she said. "I'm starving." I climbed down from the apron. Alonzo handed me my jacket. Greta Mays appeared from somewhere with a water bottle and an expression that I think she'd been saving up since 4 o'clock, and she looked like she wanted to say several things and chose instead to simply nod at me, which was perfect. We walked out through the ballroom, B and I, past the tables and the banners and the chandelier and the 400 people still on their feet. I had mopped that canvas this morning. I thought that was enough. But it turned out the night had other ideas.